I thought I had everything figured out. 1 week before my wedding, I was checking off the final details on our guest list, making sure the venue had our seating chart confirming the honeymoon reservations. Jessica, my fiancée, was staying at her parents' house to prepare, and everything felt perfect. We had built 4 years together, planned every detail of our future. Then at 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone lit up with a text message that shattered my entire world. I never thought a text message could destroy a man completely. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to know I am not alone in this. Drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever had your world turned upside down. And subscribe because this story gets darker before it gets better. Let me take you back to where it all began. Jessica and I met 4 years before that devastating night. It was at a small coffee shop in downtown Portland, the kind of place with exposed brick walls and baristas who actually remembered your order. She was sitting by the window sketching something on her tablet. I was grabbing my usual morning coffee before heading to the construction site. Our eyes met when I accidentally bumped her table, nearly spilling her latte. I apologized, profusely offered to buy her another drink, and somehow that clumsy moment turned into a 2-hour conversation. She was a graphic designer working for a local marketing firm. I was a civil engineer fresh out of graduate school, working on my first major project. We exchanged numbers, and 3 days later we went on our first real date. The relationship developed naturally over the following months. We discovered we both loved hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, trying new restaurants in the Pearl District, and spending lazy Sunday mornings reading the newspaper together. Jessica had this infectious laugh that could light up any room. She was thoughtful, creative, and seemed genuinely interested in my work, even when I droned on about soil compression ratios and load-bearing calculations. After 3 years of dating, I knew she was the one. I planned an elaborate proposal at that same coffee shop where we first met. I rented out the entire place for an evening, decorated it with photos from our relationship, and got down on one knee right by that window where she had been sitting 4 years earlier. She said yes before I even finished asking the question. Planning the wedding became our shared project. We spent months choosing the perfect venue, a historic mansion overlooking the Willamette River. Jessica created beautiful custom invitations on her tablet, each one a small work of art. We sent them to 200 guests. We put down a $5,000 deposit on the venue, another $3,000 on the photographer, $2,000 on the florist. We tasted cakes, selected songs, debated seating arrangements. Every decision felt important. Every choice brought us closer to the day we would officially become husband and wife. I had never been happier. The final week before the wedding should have been exciting. Maybe a little stressful, but mostly joyful. Instead, I started noticing small changes in Jessica. She seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone with a worried expression. When I asked if everything was okay, she blamed it on work stress and wedding pressure. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. I tried to help by taking over more of the wedding tasks, calling vendors, confirming details, anything to ease her burden. On Monday, 5 days before our Saturday ceremony, Jessica suggested staying at her parents' house for the rest of the week. She said she wanted to focus on final preparations and spend time with her mother. It seemed reasonable, even traditional. I kissed her goodbye and told her I loved her. She hugged me tightly longer than usual, but I did not think anything of it at the time. Our communication dwindled rapidly over those next few days. We used to talk on the phone 10 times a day, sending each other random thoughts and funny memes. Suddenly, I was lucky to get 2 or 3 short text messages. When I called, she either did not answer or kept the conversations brief. She always had an excuse. She was with the bridesmaids. She was helping her mother with something. She was tired and going to bed early. I felt uneasy but pushed the feelings aside. Wedding week was chaotic for everyone, right? Tuesday night changed everything. I had finally fallen asleep around midnight, after spending hours reviewing the timeline for Saturday. My phone vibrated on the nightstand at 2:17 a.m. I grabbed it groggily, expecting maybe a wrong number or some emergency. It was Jessica. The message was short, cold, devastating. "Parker, I am so sorry. I cannot do this. I am leaving." I stared at those words, my brain refusing to process them. This had to be a joke, some kind of pre-wedding panic that we could talk through. I called her immediately. The phone rang once, then went to voicemail. I called again. Same result. My hands were shaking as I typed back, asking what she meant, begging her to talk to me. Another message came through. This one was longer, and so much worse. I met someone. His name is Derek. I have known him for 6 months. He is everything I ever dreamed of. I am at the airport right now. We are flying to Vegas. I am sorry. I read it 3 times before the words actually sank in. 6 months. She had been seeing someone else for 6 months while planning our wedding, while lying next to me, while saying she loved me. And now she was at the airport running away to marry this other man. The room started spinning. I could not breathe. I called her 15 more times. Every call went straight to voicemail now. She had turned off her phone. I threw on clothes and drove to her parents' house at 3 in the morning. I pounded on the door until her father answered, confused and alarmed. When I showed him the messages, his face went pale. He woke up Jessica's mother. Neither of them knew anything about Derek or Vegas. They had thought Jessica was asleep upstairs. We went to her childhood bedroom together. It was empty. Her closet was half cleared out. She had packed and left while they were sleeping. Her mother started crying. Her father kept apologizing as if this was somehow his fault. I left them there and drove to the apartment Jessica and I shared. I unlocked the door with trembling hands. More of her things were gone. Clothes, toiletries, her laptop, her favorite books. She had planned this. This was not some impulsive decision. She had methodically packed her life and erased me from it. I checked social media, desperate for any explanation. She had blocked me on everything: Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn. It was like I had never existed to her. I sat on our couch as the sun came up, still wearing the clothes I had thrown on hours earlier, staring at my phone like it might suddenly provide answers. At 5:30 a.m., I had to call my parents. My mother answered on the 3rd ring, her voice thick with sleep. When I told her the wedding was off, that Jessica had left me for someone else, she started sobbing. My father got on the line, his anger barely controlled. He wanted to know how to fix this, what legal action we could take. But there was nothing to fix. The woman I loved was marrying someone else that very morning in Las Vegas. The next 72 hours blurred into a nightmare of phone calls and humiliation. I had to contact the venue, the caterer, the photographer, the florist, the DJ, the cake maker. Most of the deposits were non-refundable. I lost over $15,000, money I had saved for years. But worse than the financial loss was having to explain to each vendor why I was canceling. Then came the guests. 200 phone calls to friends, family, colleagues, explaining that there would be no wedding. Some people were sympathetic. Others were clearly gossiping the moment I hung up. My best friend Jake drove over and refused to leave. He stayed on my couch for 3 days, making sure I ate something, preventing me from doing anything stupid. I did not sleep. I could not eat. I just existed in this fog of disbelief and pain. The first month after Jessica left was psychological torture. I took 2 weeks off work, telling my boss I had a family emergency. I could not function. Every corner of my apartment held memories. The couch where we had watched countless movies. The kitchen where she had taught me to make her grandmother's pasta sauce. The bedroom where we had talked about our future children's names. Jake helped me pack everything that reminded me of her. We filled 12 boxes with photos, gifts, clothes she had left behind. He stored them in his garage because I could not bear to throw them away, but also could not stand to see them. Social media became my enemy. I knew I should not look, but I could not help myself. Through a mutual friend's account, I saw Jessica had posted photos from Vegas. She was wearing a simple white dress, laughing in the arms of a man who looked like he had stepped out of a cologne advertisement. Tall, perfectly styled, blonde hair, expensive suit. The caption read, "Married the love of my life." Sometimes you just know. Those 4 words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Sometimes you just know. Had she never known with me? Had our 4 years meant nothing? I started drinking more than I should have. Jake found me one night sitting on the floor with an empty bottle of whiskey, looking at old photos on my phone. He took the bottle away and told me I needed professional help. My mother found a therapist who specialized in sudden relationship trauma. Dr. Helen Chen became my lifeline over the next several months. She helped me understand that Jessica's actions were not a reflection of my worth. She taught me that betrayal says everything about the betrayer and nothing about the betrayed. But understanding something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two different things. I still woke up every morning with a crushing weight on my chest, still reached for my phone to text Jessica before remembering she was gone. 2 months after the non-wedding, I forced myself back to work. My colleagues were kind but awkward around me. I could see the pity in their eyes, hear the whispered conversations that stopped when I entered the break room. I threw myself into my job with obsessive intensity. There was a major project on the table designing a new bridge for the city's expanding infrastructure. I volunteered to lead it, working 12 and 13-hour days. If I was working, I was not thinking about Jessica. If I was solving engineering problems, I was not reliving that 2 a.m. text message. My boss was thrilled with my dedication. He had no idea I was just trying to survive. Jake, bless him, would not let me completely disappear into work. He dragged me to the gym, insisting that physical exhaustion was better than emotional exhaustion. I started running every morning, 6 miles regardless of weather. Rain, shine, cold, it did not matter. The physical pain felt cleaner somehow than the emotional pain. My body got stronger even as my heart remained broken. I lost 20 pounds of relationship weight, gained muscle definition I had never had before. People started commenting on how good I looked. I felt like a fraud. I looked healthy on the outside while dying on the inside. 6 months after Jessica left, I made a major decision. I could not stay in that apartment anymore. Every room whispered her name. I found a new place downtown, a modern studio with floor-to-ceiling windows and absolutely no history. I decorated it in minimalist-style blacks and whites and grays. Clean lines, no clutter, no memories. It felt sterile and cold, but that was what I needed. I needed a space that was entirely mine, untouched by the past. My friends helped me move on a rainy Saturday. Afterwards, we went to a bar, and Jake raised his beer. "To new beginnings," he said. I clinked my glass against his, wanting to believe it. The first year after the betrayal was about survival and distraction. I passed my professional engineering exams, earning additional certifications. I took on more responsibility at work, becoming the go-to person for complex projects. The bridge I had been designing was approved for construction, a major professional milestone. A local newspaper ran a feature on young engineers making a difference in Portland infrastructure. My photo was in the business section. My mother framed it and hung it in her living room. I felt proud and empty at the same time. I tried dating again around the 10-month mark. A woman named Amanda, a friend of a friend, pretty and smart and interested. We went out 4 times. She was lovely, genuinely kind, but I felt nothing. Every conversation I found myself comparing her to Jessica. Not favorably to Jessica, just comparing. It was not fair to Amanda. On our 5th date, I told her honestly that I was not ready. She appreciated the honesty, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. After that, I stopped trying to date. I focused on myself instead. I enrolled in a part-time MBA program, taking evening classes twice a week. I wanted to eventually start my own engineering consulting firm, and I needed the business knowledge to make it successful. Year 2 brought unexpected healing. I started hiking alone, taking weekend trips to remote trails in the Cascades. There was something therapeutic about being in nature, away from the city, away from people who knew my story. I camped under the stars, cooked simple meals over a portable stove, read books by headlamp. For the first time since Jessica left, I felt moments of genuine peace. Not happiness yet, but peace. I began to enjoy my own company. I learned to sit with silence instead of running from it. I took a solo trip to Colorado, spending a week climbing 14ers and camping in valleys where my phone had no service. That trip changed something in me. I realized I had spent so much energy mourning what I lost that I had not noticed what I had gained. Freedom, independence. The opportunity to discover who Parker was outside of a relationship. By year 3, I barely recognized my old life. I had launched my own engineering consulting firm with money I had saved and a small business loan. My first client was a local school district, needing structural assessments for earthquake preparedness. The project was successful and led to 3 more contracts. I hired my first employee, then 2 more. We rented a small office space in a renovated warehouse. It was not glamorous, but it was mine. My business grew through word of mouth and quality work. I was making more money than I ever had as an employee, and more importantly, I was building something that mattered. I bought my first house at 32 years old, a 3-bedroom townhouse in a quiet neighborhood with a small yard and a garage. I furnished it carefully, choosing pieces that reflected my taste, not trying to recreate anything from before. Modern furniture, a large desk for my home office, a guest room for when my parents visited. It felt like an adult life, stable and intentional. Around this time, I met Sophia at a networking event for local architects and engineers. She was an architect specializing in sustainable design, brilliant and funny and refreshingly direct. We started talking about a potential collaboration on a project. Those professional conversations turned into coffee meetings, which turned into dinner dates. Our relationship developed slowly, carefully. Neither of us was interested in rushing. We both had been hurt before and valued building something real over something fast. Sophia was different from Jessica in every way. She was independent with her own successful career and no interest in being rescued or supported. She was honest, sometimes brutally so. She called me out when I was being distant or overthinking. She pushed me to be better while accepting me as I was. 6 months into dating, she told me she loved me. I said it back and actually meant it. Not the desperate, clingy love I had felt with Jessica, but a mature, stable love built on respect and genuine compatibility. We moved in together after a year, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. Life felt good, really genuinely good. It was a Thursday evening in late October when my receptionist called my office line. "Mr. Reynolds, there is someone here to see you. She does not have an appointment." I was annoyed. I had been working on a complex structural analysis and did not want interruptions. I told her to ask who it was. There was a pause. "She says her name is Jessica." My entire body went cold. I sat there for a long moment, my mind racing. Then I stood up, straightened my tie, and walked to the lobby. And there she was. Jessica looked completely different from the woman who had run away 3 years ago. She was thinner, her cheekbones sharp. Her eyes were red and swollen like she had been crying for days. Her hair, which she had always kept long and glossy, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore old jeans and an oversized gray hoodie, the kind of outfit she would have never worn in public before. She looked up when I entered the lobby and immediately started crying. "Parker," she whispered, "I made a terrible mistake. Can we talk?" Every instinct told me to say no, to ask her to leave, to protect myself. But there was a part of me, maybe the part that had loved her for 4 years, that needed to hear what she had to say. I nodded stiffly and told her there was a coffee shop 2 blocks away. We walked in silence. I deliberately chose a place we had never been together. I would not let this conversation contaminate any of my memories. We sat in a corner booth. Jessica ordered nothing. I got black coffee I did not want just to have something to do with my hands. She started talking, words tumbling out between sobs. She told me Derek was not the man she thought he was. In the beginning, everything had been perfect. He was romantic, passionate, wealthy. He worked in finance, always knew the best restaurants, the best vacation spots. He made her feel special and exciting. But after they got married, things changed. He became controlling. He managed her money, monitored her phone, questioned where she went and who she saw. She had to ask permission to visit her family. 6 months into the marriage, she discovered he was cheating with a coworker. When Jessica confronted him, Derek turned it around on her. "You are not exciting anymore," he had said. "You are boring." She wanted a divorce, but he had convinced her to sign a prenuptial agreement that left her with almost nothing. He had money for expensive lawyers. She did not. The divorce took 18 months and left her financially devastated. Worse, Derek had connections in the Portland design community. He made phone calls, spread rumors. She lost her job. No other firms would hire her. She had been living with a friend for the past 2 months, barely surviving on freelance work. "Parker," she said, grabbing my hand across the table. "I was so stupid. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away for a fantasy. Can you forgive me? Can we try again?" I looked down at her hand on mine. Part of me felt sympathy. She had clearly suffered, but the larger part of me felt something else. Anger. Not the hot, explosive anger from 3 years ago, but a cold, clear anger at the audacity of this request. I gently pulled my hand away. "Jessica," I said carefully, "I am sorry for what you went through. I really am. Nobody deserves to be treated the way Derek treated you. But you made your choice." She leaned forward desperately. "But we can start over. We were good together, remember? All those years, all those memories. That has to mean something." I shook my head. "We were good together. Past tense. You did not just break up with me, Jessica. You destroyed me 1 week before our wedding, via text message, at 2 a.m, while you were literally running away to marry another man. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" She was crying harder now. I know. I was awful. But I was confused, and Derek was so persuasive, and I thought I was in love. I made a mistake, Parker. People make mistakes. I felt my jaw tighten. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. What you did was not a mistake. It was a choice. You chose him over me. You chose to humiliate me in front of 200 people. You chose to waste 4 years of my life and $15,000 of my savings. Those were all choices. I stood up, pulling my wallet out. 3 years ago, I would have done anything to hear you say you made a mistake. I would have taken you back in a heartbeat, because I was broken and desperate, and I did not know my own worth. But that man does not exist anymore. I rebuilt my entire life from scratch. I built a successful company. I bought a house. I found someone who actually respects me and values me. I have peace, Jessica. Real peace. Something I never had with you, even before you left. Jessica looked up at me with devastated eyes. "You have someone else." Her voice was small. "I do," I said. "Her name is Sophia. She is an architect. She is brilliant and kind, and she treats me like a partner, not like a backup plan." Jessica flinched at that. "That is what this is, isn't it?" I continued. "You are not here because you realized I was the love of your life. You are here because Derek did not work out, and you need somewhere to land. I am not your safety net. I am not your second choice. I deserve to be someone's first choice, and Sophia gives me that every single day." I placed a $20 bill on the table for the coffee. "I hope you find what you are looking for, Jessica. I genuinely do. I hope you rebuild your life and find happiness. But it will not be with me. That door closed 3 years ago when you sent that text message. I wish you well." I walked out of that coffee shop without looking back. My hands were shaking as I unlocked my car, but it was not from sadness or regret. It was relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. I had waited 3 years for closure without realizing it. That conversation was my closure. I had said everything I needed to say. I had stood up for myself. I had chosen my own worth over nostalgia. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in years. Sophia was in the kitchen when I got home cooking pasta with that focused intensity she brought to everything. She had a key to my place, and I had a key to hers. We had not officially decided to fully merge our lives yet, but we were moving in that direction naturally. I told her about Jessica showing up. I expected some reaction, jealousy, or insecurity, but Sophia just dried her hands and hugged me. "I am proud of you," she said simply. That is exactly what I needed to hear. Over the next week, Jessica sent me several more text messages. She apologized again, asked if we could just talk one more time, told me she still loved me. Each message was easier to ignore than the last. After the 10th one, I blocked her number. I heard through mutual friends that she had left Portland again, moved back to California to stay with her parents while she figured out her life. I felt nothing when I heard that news. No satisfaction, no sadness, just indifference. She was no longer part of my story. 2 months after that coffee shop conversation, my business landed its biggest contract yet. A major residential development needed complete infrastructure design. It was a 2-year project worth more than all my previous work combined. I hired 7 more employees, moved to a larger office space downtown with views of the city. My team was talented and dedicated. We were building something that mattered, creating safe structures that would serve the community for decades. I loved going to work every morning. That feeling alone told me how far I had come. Sophia and I made our relationship official in the most us way possible. No dramatic proposal, no big production. We were hiking in the gorge one Saturday, stopped for lunch on a cliff overlooking the river. She turned to me and said, "I think we should get married eventually. Not tomorrow, not next month, but eventually." What do you think? I laughed and agreed. We talked about timelines, about wanting to travel together first, about neither of us being in a rush. We wanted to buy a bigger house together, build equity, maybe think about kids in a few years. Everything felt intentional and mutual. We were partners making decisions together, not one person dragging the other along. Jake got married that spring to a woman he had been dating for 2 years. I was his best man standing beside him, as he promised forever to someone he truly loved. During my speech at the reception, I talked about real love versus fantasy love. I talked about how the right relationship should not feel like constantly trying to prove yourself worthy. The right relationship should feel like coming home. I never mentioned Jessica's name, but Jake caught my eye during that speech and smiled. He knew what I was really saying. I was saying I had finally figured it out. My mother's health had worried me in the months after Jessica left. She had taken the betrayal almost as hard as I had, feeling somehow responsible for not seeing the signs. But over the past 3 years, she had healed too. She loved, Sophia, appreciated her straightforward nature and the way she challenged me. At Sunday dinners, my mother would tell stories from my childhood, and Sophia would laugh genuinely, not politely. One evening after Sophia had gone home, my mother hugged me at the door. "I'm glad things turned out this way," she whispered. "You deserve better than Jessica ever gave you." I hugged her back and told her I agreed. Looking back now with the clarity that only time and distance can provide, I can say something that would have seemed impossible 3 years ago. Jessica leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because I wanted revenge or because I enjoyed seeing her suffer. I genuinely hope she finds happiness and heals from her own trauma. But her leaving forced me to become the man I needed to be. When she walked away, I thought my life was ending. It turns out it was just beginning. I learned so many crucial lessons in those 3 years. I learned that you cannot build a future with someone who sees you as an option, not a priority. I learned that real love does not abandon you via text at 2 in the morning when things get difficult. I learned that success is not about proving people wrong or getting revenge. Success is about proving to yourself that you are stronger than you thought, more resilient than you imagined, more worthy than you believed. The man Jessica left behind would have taken her back in that coffee shop. He was desperate, broken, willing to accept crumbs of affection because he did not believe he deserved the whole meal. But I am not that man anymore. I am someone who knows his worth, who refuses to settle, who understands that being alone is better than being with someone who does not truly value you. Sophia did not have to fix me because I was not broken when she entered my life. I had already done the hard work of putting myself back together. She walked into my world when I was already whole, already stable, already confident. That made all the difference. She did not complete me because I was already complete. She complemented me. We built something together as 2 whole people choosing to share a life, not 2 broken people desperately clinging to each other. That is the difference between finding someone when you are desperate and finding someone when you are ready. Jessica will always be a chapter in my story. She was my first serious adult relationship, my first real heartbreak, my first major betrayal. Those experiences shaped me, taught me, made me more careful and more wise. But she is not my ending. She is not even my middle anymore. She is just part of the beginning, part of the journey that led me to where I am now. I do not hate her. Hate requires energy and emotion that I would rather invest in my present and future. I feel indifferent toward her, which is perhaps the truest sign that I have moved on completely. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing in disguise. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. Sometimes the person who walks away is actually doing you the biggest favor of your life, even if it does not feel that way at the time. 3 years ago, I was angry, devastated, humiliated. Today, I am grateful, genuinely, deeply grateful. Because if Jessica had not left, I would have married someone who was capable of that level of betrayal. I would have built a life with someone who did not truly love me. I would have wasted more years, maybe decades, before discovering the truth. Instead, she showed me who she was before I made a permanent legal commitment. She saved me from a far worse future, even if that was not her intention. If Jessica had not left, I would have never started my own company. I would have stayed comfortable in my corporate job, too afraid to take risks. I would have never discovered my own strength, never proven to myself that I could rebuild from nothing. I would have never met Sophia, never experienced what a healthy, equal partnership actually feels like. Every good thing in my life now exists because Jessica walked away. That wedding never happened. And I have never been happier about something not working out. So let me ask you, have you ever had something terrible happen that turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you rebuild? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences help others who are going through similar pain. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming heartbreak and finding yourself again. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it gets better, that you can survive betrayal, that the best revenge is living well. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gave you hope if you are struggling, or validation if you have been through something similar. Remember, you are worth more than being someone's backup plan. You deserve to be someone's first choice. And sometimes the person who walks away is making room for someone better to walk in. Take care of yourselves out there, and I will see you in the next one.